story time again. So last time I was talking about my paper route and everything, and that got me thinking about, the schools that I went to. I was talking about, I went to Dr. Andy Hall for 4th grade. Well, the 5th grade year, they decided to change Dr. Andy Hall into the 6th grade center. So they took all the kids that went to Dr. Andy Hall and they split them up into different groups, and some went to this school, some went to that school. Well, I went back to Franklin, the school that I talked about going to a while back. And so we'd have to take a bus over there. But one time we almost got in trouble. One of my friends, and I'm going to try not to say any names, not like it would be anything, because I haven't seen this dude in, probably 25, 30 years. But we got in trouble because we sat at the back of the bus, and he had some like Cracker Jacks or something like that, and like a soda or something. He was eating it and chewing it up a little bit and then spitting it on the back of the seat of the bus, and almost got us kicked off the bus. And then another time we were at school, and you have your little groups that you sit with and everything, and was sitting there, and there was a vending machine right behind us, a soda machine. And so you'd walk through line, you'd get your lunch, and then you'd come sit down. Well, he got a cheeseburger one day, and the cheese wasn't melted on it. And he's like, man, I don't want this government cheese. And he took it, and he flipped it behind him, and it stuck on the vending machine, and we just left it there. And then one of the teachers or whatever he was, he got all, who did it? Who did it? And of course, we're not going to say who did it. So the punishment was we couldn't sit with each other for like a week or something like that. And then something happened, and he had like a pair of Scottie Pippen shoes, and somebody beat him up and stole his shoes. But that goes into, I used to really love basketball back then. And so the way it was at Dr. Andy Hall's is if it was nice outside and it wasn't raining or something like that, then you would go outside on the playground before school started. And so Pizza Hut used to have these basketballs that you could get, and they were like black, and they did a couple of different versions of these basketballs. And I remember I had this Pizza Hut basketball, and like, especially when we lived at Uncle Mike's house and it was just like a straight walk to school, I would just dribble that ball on the way to school and walk to school, and then play basketball until it was time to go to the first class. And we would play 21 most of the time. And so that's a game where there's no teams or anything. It's each individual point or individual people playing. And normally someone would start with like shooting a 3 or something like that. And the goal of the game is to get to 21 points. And if you score a regular basket, that's 2. If you score a free throw, that's worth 1 point. A 3-pointer is worth 3 points. But if you made 3 free throws in a row, you got the ball back. So in theory, you can make 5 or 6 points pretty quickly. And so if you get to 20 and you can't make a free throw, or you miss a free throw, you do what's called busting, and you go back to 17. And so we used to play that like every morning. You'd have, there's a couple different basketball goals. You'd have 7 or 8 guys playing on one, 7 or 8 guys playing on another one. And I didn't really win too much just because I was never really good at scoring. Like, I started playing basketball for school in 3rd grade, but I never really got to play. And then I only played for a couple years. We ended up moving to a different school, and I played a couple years. But I don't think I played at Dr. Andy Hall either year. But that was like the golden age for basketball in a way. And you had Michael Jordan playing for the Bulls with Scottie Pippen, and then Dennis Rodman started playing with him. And I remember when Rodman was playing, like, he had this whole thing where he would dye his hair. And so it was a big thing about what his hair looked like today, or this week, and then next week. And I remember hearing a story on the radio talking about there was a billboard in Chicago that someone had, and it had like this much of Dennis Rodman's head, but the hair would come off. So each time that he changed the dye job on his hair, they would remake the billboard and then put it back down. And whatever road it was on, it was causing a traffic jam, because this is way before cell phones and social media and stuff like that. So people were wanting to see, you know, what the hair was this week. You know, but you had so many good players playing back then. You had Patrick Ewing on the Knicks. You had for the Jazz, you had Karl Malone and John Stockton playing. I'm just drawing a big blank right now. But my favorite team back then was the Charlotte Hornets. They had Muggsy Bogues. He was one of the shortest players in the league. You had Alonzo Mourning. He was my favorite player. He was the center. And then you had Larry Johnson. And those two, Larry Johnson and Alonzo Mourning, were like my two favorite players. And Larry Johnson was a big, muscular dude and everything. But he did these funny commercials where he'd dress up as grandmama. And so he'd dress up like being an old lady, and then he'd be like dunking a basketball and stuff. And I remember at some point in time, he had a Converse shoe. And it had this like little gel thing on the bottom. And somehow I didn't get like a new pair of them. I got a used pair of them somehow. And I remember having a pair of those, and I thought I was just so cool. Because we'd have the basketball cards and stuff like that, and you would, you know, switch them from different people, you know, trading and things like that. That was part of what we would do. And I was just thinking, you know, Charles Barkley was playing. You had Hakeem Olajuwon and Clive Drexler, just all these, you know, great players playing then. And now I really don't like watching basketball anymore. It's changed a lot, and some other stuff happened, and it just, I don't know. I'd rather watch baseball or football or hockey. I can't remember if I told the story. I can't remember if it was in the 4th or 6th grade or when it was, but we was on PE. There's this dude, he always wore these. I'll find a picture of it. They almost look like a sombrero type, hoodie type thing that later on, that's what the stoner kids would wear. But like some of the girls were out there doing some like gymnastic stuff, and he said that he could do a cartwheel or something. And he went to do it. When he did, he slipped and fell and just landed right on his neck. And I think it knocked him out for a little bit. I remember they called an ambulance and came pick them up. I don't remember what happened to him, but yeah. Just one little thing trying to show out, you know. And then we had another boy. I can't remember what was wrong with him, but he always walked with a walker. And sometimes he'd just take off running, and then he'd jump on the 2 bars and just coast the walker. But I remember one day some dude tried picking on him for something. I don't remember what it was. And this was in the 6th grade. And man, all the people that jumped down that dude, oh God, they're like, we don't care who you mess with here, but you're not messing with him. And I think I told the story. I remember he was all excited one time because they were getting the Mike Tyson's fight on pay-per-view. And back then that was a big deal. And it was one of those Mike Tyson's fights that was like 30 seconds long. And it was like, I think it was like $80 back then, which was a lot of money compared to, you know, then to now. But I left there, and then we went to Opdyke. And so I got to figure out how to wait, because we moved at one point to another house. And I'm not exactly sure when this time period is, but we moved to a different house. And so instead of going down a not as fun route, I'll just say leave it there. The good memories of playing basketball. And like, the funny part about it is like, out of all the guys playing most of the time, I was the only white dude out there, which I really didn't care. All my friends at that time were black, and I didn't really care about anything. We just all hung out. But I'll pick up talking about, I think the street was Castleberry. I know I can find it on Google Maps if it's still there. So hopefully things have started to get back more to normal, and I can try to start doing these a little bit more, because the last one I actually recorded like this was before Luca was born. And you know, it's been nothing but bad times. Well, we haven't had a luck with the animals, and so, you know, Molly passed away, and Sweet Pea passed away, and Chester passed away. But we got the two cats, Timmy and Lena, so you're starting to like it, because Timmy will come sleep with you at night. You always want to pick him up and carry him in there, and he's so good about just letting you just manhandle him. And I keep telling you, Finn, that, you know, if you just leave him be, he'll come in there. And guess what happened last night? You tried taking him, putting him in there. He didn't want to be in there. Then about 15 minutes later, he came in and laid down by your feet and slept next to your feet. So, like I said, if you just let him make his choice, then it'll be all right. So, I guess until hopefully next week, just want you guys to know I love you.